there's yet another update. A week since the George building collapse, we know the death toll currently stands at 24, with 28 people still unaccounted for. There's another update currently taking place. Let's listen in.
The family members, and also then once there's a possibility that a family member is then linked to that specific body or that specific WC number, we will then put them in immediate contact with the police and the detectives branch. They will then assist us to bring the family to forensic pathology service, where we will start a formal process. If the bodies are visually identifiable, we will go the visual route. Obviously, that will assist us to get the body identified quicker. But if not, then we'll have to go the scientific route. It's either by means of fingerprints or DNA. So right now, to the bodies that are being recovered, they are in a state of decomposition. Right, so that makes the visual identification a little bit more tricky and a little bit more difficult. But normally we would not show any pictures to any families of any bodies in a state of decomposition, but because of the situation we find ourselves in, we have to sensitize the family members to the fact that the pictures might be gory, but also it will assist us to obviously link a family, because even though the body is slightly visually identifiable, we still have to go the DNA route or the fingerprint route, the scientific route, to get them formally identified, and then before we can hand over to the bodies back to the families. The issue is that we have made certain consensus, and we are speeding things up as fast as we can, but at this stage we also just ask for a little bit of patience, so to allow us to do our processes. We obviously working overtime, we're doing extra shifts. We as the bodies come in, we will go through the post-mortem process so we can get the pictures done and so forth. So I understand that the families, they want closure, they want answers, but if they can give us a day or two after, a day at least, after the body's been recovered, so that we can put those photo albums available, because that will assist us. Once we have everything together, we put them, we bring it back to the hall, and so we can work through the families and start linking families to the bodies, and then obviously get them identified as quick and as soon as possible.
So for those bodies that are not, that doesn't have any clear identification or any markings that one could really trace, you have to do DNA.
Yeah.
You talked about expediting the situation, the whole process. How are you going to do that?
Okay, so we've got certain assurances from those. Look, this is a value chain. It's not just us. It's a whole bunch of departments and that's coming together so that we can expedite this as quick and as soon as possible. So we have people right now at our facility from the victim identification, SABC victim identification unit. We have people all over coming to assist. So as soon as we get any type of information, any type of DNA, we'll take it. We will try and match it as soon as possible. The thing is, also when it comes to DNA, there are certain parameters to be able to match a person to a family member. And if they do not have any immediate family members in George, that's going to make things slightly more difficult for us in terms of matching a body with DNA. We've also, all the consulates are around, they are making information available. So like I said, we're a multidisciplinary team trying to get everybody identified and back to the family members as soon as possible.
Do you basically give priority to the victims at this site?
Okay, we are working as hard as we can, but we also have other cases come in normal time. So right now we're doing as many of this disaster, but we also have other cases. That's what I say. So we're doing things in shifts so that obviously the people that are also affected outside of this disaster are also being served.
Can we ask at this stage how many of the deceased that you have recovered from the site have been positively identified, and whether their families have already been informed about that? Okay,
so we have one formal identification that's done. The whole process has been done, so the family, that body can actually be released to the family. And then we have a number of bodies that's already linked to certain family members. So the actual physical identification process where it becomes formal, those still need to be done. But that's little things like paperwork, ID documents, those type of things that's needed for us to be able to do the identification. And as soon as that's done, then we can release those bodies to the families.
Have you had to be in touch with at this time?
I'm not exactly sure. Just everything's been a blur. I've been meeting with so many consulates and so forth. But the Joint Operations Centre will be able to give you all the consulates that are involved at the moment. But I must say everybody has come on board. We've been great assistance. And right now we're just trying to get everything done and return the families, the bodies to the family members as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we've just heard from the Forensic Pathology Services Assistant Director, Floyd Hervels, giving us an update with regards to the forensic process in terms of the identification of those that have been recovered from the site here. Also then confirmation that one of the people have been identified positively. Family members have then been informed, and that at this stage they are ready to process and release the one person, the one worker that was found and identified to the respective families.
Yeah, Vanessa, I understand to hear that you're speaking to. Really devastating to still be here, quite frankly, a week into this disaster. And, we're still getting a sense that there's still so much more to be done before those who've been affected, both directly and indirectly, are able to take the next steps, whatever that looks like. Perhaps let's just start off with a quick summation of what we've known have taken place over the past weekend. Many people are starting to catch up again with the story once again. The death toll has risen. The number of people who are still unaccounted for is still way past 20. And the sense we're still getting, at least from my vantage point, is that this is still very much a search and rescue operation.
That's indeed the word from the authorities here at the site. We've spoken to the fire chief, we've spoken to a head of disaster management, and also the police. At this stage, it is still very much a rescue operation. They've informed us, and we've seen at the site behind us, even though the heavy earth-moving equipment and excavators are on the site, we do know that they're taking every care to ensure that they do not disturb, the process of recovering people from and rescuing people from the site. Of course, that moment of glimmer of hope there on Saturday morning, of course, when a victim was found, a survivor was found alive. Of course, a moment that brought joy to the rescue workers here on site, and renewed hope that more people will be found alive. Of course, the death toll has unfortunately now risen to 24, and the work continues here at the site of the collapsed building behind me for the complete recovery as well as rescue of those that still remain unaccounted for at the stage this morning.
Right, and there's also been real questions around the developers, the contractors, their whereabouts. Police seemingly giving some kind of ultimatum at the weekend that these officials or these individuals be forthcoming with documentation that will help expedite the identification process or possibly face the consequences.
Indeed, and the Minister of Police, Sihle, did not mince his words. First of all, he said that he described as inhumane that the employers have not gotten in touch with those families that are waiting in the hall behind me, saying that that's the least they can do at this stage, but also then saying to us that it's now been a week and that police and authorities cannot wait another week, because at this stage you would know it has been said that the estimated number of people that were on site is 81, but of course not verified, because what police and authorities are looking for at this stage is confirmation, documentation of those workers that have been on site here. And when I posed the question saying that surely it cannot be another week worth of waiting, the Minister did then say that police will have to act, will have to follow the law, will have to use the legislation, because it is their constitutional obligation to ensure that all those people that have been involved in this tragedy are identified, and saying that they have appealed again to the developers, to the main contractors. They also have identified the main contractor as well as the 6 subcontractors, but saying that if this information is not forthcoming, they will have to act decisively and use all measures, go through a legal route in terms of getting that information, because at the end of the day, we know we are standing here at a site, a collapsed site, but of course just a few meters from us are family members who are waiting, family members who have waited for a week now to hear about their loved ones, for those to be identified, etc. And a very, very trying time for those people waiting for that news at the hall here in George, in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's the next question I was about to pose to you, Vanessa. I mean, we've watched this story eagerly over the past 7 days or so, and we've certainly come across these impassioned pleas from the relatives who've been affected by this. What's your sense about how they are holding up, if at all, as the wait continues?
To be honest, I think it is an extremely, extremely difficult thing to be sitting and waiting hour in and hour out, day in and day out. And just yesterday, when we were in the hall, when the community and the family members were engaging with the police contingent, police minister, etc., we've just seen one of the relatives, a girlfriend really of one of the workers here. She was extremely emotional, saying that she's provided all the documentation that she has, but at this stage they are waiting for news. I mean, even asking why they're not allowed to come onto site, because family members, you can understand, a week without knowing what has happened to your loved one is an extremely traumatic experience. So the sense that I get is that people are traumatized, people are frustrated, people are heartsore, people are trying to grieve, but of course they need that closure after this incident happened. And the sense I get is that there is frustration, even though the processes have been explained in terms of what happens from a forensic point of view, what happens from an identification point of view. One can understand as a human being the emotions that those family members, relatives and loved ones are going through at this point in time.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly cannot blame anyone for pushing ahead for answers at the very least. It almost seems, Vanessa, that, the elements have been playing ball as much as they can. We are seeing the early signs of winter really starting to set in. The weather here in Johannesburg, the lows are now at single digits. And, I'm only painting this picture to try to get a sense of how difficult it must be to continue surviving if in fact there are any other workers who are still alive under the rubble overnight.
Yes, and it's a question I posed to the authorities in terms of what exactly they are seeing at the site behind me. It has changed dramatically since Tuesday. You would have seen that at the moment tons of the concrete slabs that were broken up by these earth movers as well as excavators have been removed from the site. But of course, what they've explained to us is that they are now in what they call voids, and those are open spaces. They are at the areas where they want to be, and then saying to us again that the hope still remains to find those that may still be trapped alive underneath the site here behind me. That hope still remains, and of course efforts are ongoing. I mean, just behind me you'll see some more equipment coming back in again this morning in the efforts to recover as well as to rescue as many people as possible.
Right, Vanessa Poonah, thanks very much indeed for that update. So crucial, of course, as we continue watching the latest coming out of George. It's an incredibly heart-wrenching situation. Once again, 28 people now confirmed to still be unaccounted for. The death toll is at 24. Initially, there were 81 workers who were said to be at that site.